feel like it's like a call-in. We're having it's just it's turned into a call-in show. All right, everybody, welcome to Progressives Abroad. We're back once again, and this is your host, Boutique. Don't forget to subscribe to this amazing podcast. And today in the studio, we got Mr. Dan B all the way from Colombia again today. My cuz, how you doing, Mr. over there?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just teaching and studying still. So trying to keep life on track as everything else flies off the rails.
Yes. Yeah. So last time we talked to you, you live in Colombia. So, before we get on to anything else, you want to just let's do a brief wellness check, maybe for you, but also for your city and where you're at in Colombia. How is everything going over there?
Well, not good. It's just like, I think last time we talked, Colombia was doing all right. But I think now we're number 5 in the world for cases.
Of COVID, yeah.
Yeah. We're probably going to hit 1 million this week. 1 million cases. Yeah. Deaths are pretty low, I would say, compared to the number of cases we have. Because, for example, Mexico and Peru both have, similar numbers of cases, but way higher death rates. So I don't know what's up with that. I would say in general, maybe the hospitals here are better than maybe in those two countries. But
interesting.
Yeah, even Spain, I think we're tied right now with Spain for number of cases, and Spain has a lot more deaths too. I don't know. The thing is too, you never know, people could be dying and the government's just, not really counting it, which I think is also very likely.
This is the crazy thing about now is, as much as I would say everybody, because I feel like so many people distrust governments everywhere around the world. As much as we've all distrusted the governments before, now it's on it's next level distrust in our government institutions. Because when I hear people, politicians in the United States saying, "Well, you can't trust those numbers over there in Russia, or you can't trust those numbers over there in China," I'm like, yeah, probably not. And I don't really trust the numbers in Norway, and I don't really trust the numbers in the United States either.
Yeah.
I just don't trust it anywhere. If you were over here, it's just crazy to hear how it's going on everywhere else. Because over here, in Europe, it's on fire. Things are going crazy. Norway literally has the least amount of cases, I think I read today, per capita in Europe in general. But it's still here, and it still exists, and they're not testing that much in comparison to how many people are here. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very shady, and I'm kind of working on an episode about that whole thing right now. But it basically, the government is, in my opinion, the government here in Norway is basically taking a soft Trumpian stance on coronavirus, which is we're basically going to kind of act Trump style attitude towards corona, but we're not going to talk about it.
Well, I don't know if you've seen anything about this recently, but actually the Colombian government is very much involved right now with the U.S. elections, and the U.S. is very much involved with Colombia.
Okay, let's talk about it. This sounds interesting because, that's the topic of today's show, everybody, is we're doing a series on elections, perspectives from abroad. So tell us, how is the Colombia involved in the U.S. elections?
So Colombia had presidential elections in 2018. And they had a bunch of candidates. They do ranked voting like most countries do. So you have the first round, and if no one gets 50%, then the top 2 candidates go head to head. So there was 3 major candidates. There was one guy who was a pretty centrist, centrist kind of Democrat, Joe Biden type, neoliberal, liberal type guy. Former mayor of Medellin. And so he was the 3rd most popular. He got knocked out, but he drew a lot of votes away from this other guy who I would have supported, and his name was Gustavo Petro. And he used to be actually an M19 guerrilla, which was one of the guerrilla groups here, not the FARC, which is the major one, but they were, a Marxist insurgency group in the 1970s and 80s. And he was actually a member of the group. But they actually had a peace treaty back in like the 80s, and they got incorporated into a political party. So he was a member of their political party for a while. And he ran for president, super popular. But it's interesting. So like in the first round, you know, these two guys were the most popular, like the centrist kind of guy and this guy who's like pretty far left, like definitely to the left of Bernie, I would say. I would say he's like a true like leftist in the most in the sense. But then like out of nowhere, you know, in the last like couple weeks, you start seeing this guy rise up, and his name's Ivan Duque, and he was running for the political party of the ex-president from 2002 to 2010. So these are like the Bush and the beginning of the Obama years. And he was like notorious. Basically, I mean, I would say for the most part, he was kind of a dictator. I mean, I don't think his elections were fair. He controlled paramilitary groups. He was responsible for at least like 5,000, 6,000 deaths and massacres in villages. Pretty ruthless president.
Jeez.
And was currently, at the time, he was senator. So he was leader of the Senate, like basically like a Mitch McConnell, like Senate majority. So he went from president to Senate majority leader. So pretty influential figure. And he like threw his support behind this guy in like the last couple of weeks. And, you know, surprise of all surprise, rises to the tops of the polls in like 3 weeks. And so when it came down to the head to head, basically the narrative that happened in the presidential election here was like Venezuela, you know, because you got this guy who's like a far right candidate supported by, you know, the oil companies, pro fracking. Colombia didn't even have fracking till this guy got into office. So this guy actually started fracking in 2018.
Oh my God.
So
anti-progress.
And yeah, exactly. And so the narrative was Castro Chavismo. So like they were like, you know, this guy Gustavo Petro, he was like, you know, allies with Castro. He was friends with Chavez. Like he's going to turn Colombia into Venezuela. He's going to turn Colombia into Venezuela. He's going to turn Colombia into, that was like that was like the big point. You know what I mean? It was like the big talking point of the election. It's like, you know, we can't be Venezuela. We can't be like Venezuela, blah, 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 blah. And so, you know, this guy wins. Actually, a couple months ago came out that, you know, there was a bunch of election fraud, which, you know, obviously, like, of course, there was election fraud because he came out of nowhere and then ends up winning the election, you know, in the last like 3 weeks. And, you know, a bunch of his like administration cabinets own like coca farms and have direct relationships with narco traffickers. So it's very obvious that a lot of, you know, dark, shady stuff went down. But this guy, so Ivan Duque, he's U.S. educated. He got his undergraduate, I think, at Georgetown. And then,
of course.
And then I think he maybe went to Harvard Law. But like the guy speaks perfect English. Like he speaks like U.S. English, doesn't have an accent. You'd think he's from the U.S. if you heard him talk. And
did he go to school with this other guy? What was his name? Guaido. Did he go to school with Juan Guaido?
No, I don't think so. Okay. But they're all in the same boat. You know, they're all in the same boat. Mike Pompeo's been spending a lot of time in Colombia lately.
Interesting. Really? Mike under the radar.
U.S. military's all over the coast right now, like in the villages. They're all like setting. Yeah, so U.S. military's all over the Colombian coast, setting up encampments. The official reason is to fight narco trafficking, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like they're getting ready to invade Venezuela from the word on the street. And it's not like a conspiracy thing. Like you can look this up. Like this, it's like not like they're totally here and they're present, and it's like an official operation.
Bizarre.
And the ex-president, his name was Alvaro Uribe. He was under house arrest for corruption charges, but they just let him free. Of course, you know, because no rich people stay in prison for long if they even go to prison. And he was really good friends with George Bush, close personal friends of George Bush. He actually got money under the Patriot Act because he was pledging to fight terrorism. So very much in the last like 15, 20 years, a lot of U.S. Colombian relationship going on. And it's kind of culminating because I don't know if you saw Trump tweet the other day. So Trump tweeted, I think like 2 or 3 days ago. Let me just pull up the tweet actually. And he tweeted about this guy, Gustavo Petro, because Gustavo Petro has been like really just like ripping on Trump the last couple of days. He's currently a senator, so he lost the election, but he's still a senator. So he's still a major figure in Colombian politics. But yeah, so basically Trump is really banking on winning Florida. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what Trump's trying to do is trying to win the Latino vote in Florida. So he's really going after the Cubans and the Venezuelans in Florida.
Sure.
Because, you know, they're big population, and Colombians obviously too. But I don't think he would actually have too much trouble winning these populations anyway, because I would say most Cubans, Venezuelans, and Colombians who are in Florida are of like the elite who kind of have left these countries. You know, landowners, wealthy people, oil people, narco people, I'm sure as well. But so he's really trying to like get the votes. So Trump is also now invoking the Venezuelan narrative into the election. And so Trump tweeted on October 10th, so like 4 days ago, he said, Joe Biden is a puppet of the Castro Chavistas like Crazy Bernie, AOC, and Castro lover Karen Bass. Biden is supported by socialist Gustavo Petro, a major loser and former M19 guerrilla leader. Biden is weak on socialism and will betray Colombia. I stand with you.
Wow. That one, wow. I had no idea this was going on, man. This is why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah. So like the US and Colombia have been buddy lately. I mean, they always have been, I would say, throughout like the Cold War era, because, you know, Colombia's been a very strong neoliberal stronghold in Latin America, considering it's surrounded by like, you know, Ecuador. So basically in the early 2000s, I don't know how much you know about it, but like South America took like a huge swing left. Like you had Evo Morales in Bolivia got elected. You had Rafael Correa in Ecuador got elected. These guys are also, you had Chavez was in power, got elected. And you also had Lula in Brazil. I don't know if you know about Lula at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so
I don't know so much about all this, but I know the names.
And you had Pepe Mujica in Uruguay. And so you had like all these like countries that basically elected either like straight up socialists or democratic socialists who were, and, you know, Colombia, on the other hand, had this far right dictator type person, Alvaro Uribe, who is still like the major politician pretty much in Colombia. And so the US, I think between George Bush and even Obama was down here messing around too, with like, he had like something called the Plan Colombia, which is very controversial. I don't know too much about it, to be honest, but I know that it's not well received by the people who I know and like my professors and stuff. And that was like Obama and Hillary Clinton were involved in that. But yeah, so in the last like 20, 30 years, I think US and Colombia have been really just trying to eliminate socialism in Latin America.
And they're starting with Venezuela. So I mean, these military ships. Yeah,
they already got rid of Evo Morales. I mean, you saw that like last year. What happened with him was there was a coup.
Yeah, in Bolivia, right?
Yeah, in Bolivia, and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz were in the U.S. embassy in Bolivia when that happened.
This is insane.
And so, like, I mean, it seems like it was like a U.S. orchestrated coup.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, do you remember like last year when it really looked like they were going to do I think it was last year, right? Or maybe 2 years ago. When it really looked like the coup was going to happen.
And the humanitarian aid was on the border.
Yeah. Whatever. And I remember Mike Pence did this like really bizarre video from like the vice president office where he was like, "Hola, my friends, like we stand with the people of Venezuela," and blah blah blah. It was just like, yeah, we're coming, and they support, and his support for Juan Guaido and all this stuff like that. It's just like it seemed so obviously cheesy and planned, you know.
Yeah. And so I think I don't really know what has been like the weight, I guess, because I don't know if Trump is just trying to get popular support. I think basically Trump and Duque, which are basically going to be the two major military forces that would be involved in a war or a coup of Venezuela, you know, because Colombia's got a really big military as well. And I think proportionally for like population budget wise, almost the same size as the US. Like it's a heavily militarized country. And I guess I don't really know what they're trying to do. I don't know why they're waiting, basically. I don't know if they're waiting for like enough popular support from both like populations. Like I don't know if they're waiting for enough popular support from the US and enough popular support from Colombia to invade. I don't know if they're waiting for, I think they're hoping Maduro will resign, maybe. And I don't know if I don't really know what they're waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for Trump to be reelected.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, for right now, probably doesn't matter in the next, 20 days or so. They're just kind of milking it, for publicity at the moment. And then, eventually they want to do it. It's just a matter of time. Maybe they're not ready to do it now, or maybe they want to do it after the election. I mean, I think in general, if Trump, was to win the election, I think then we're going to see a whole bunch of skeletons come out of the closet after that. He's kind of been holding out a bit in more recent times and to a certain extent behaving himself. I know that sounds crazy considering how he's been behaving, but I think he's been kind of holding back a bit. I can feel he's holding repressing some things he wants to do. And I mean, the government, I think regardless, I don't know if it'd be so much different under like a Biden presidency with our foreign relations down there. Yeah,
Biden, the thing is like Juan Guaido has the support, I think, of like, most countries.
Yes, bipartisan support, right? Like the United States.
Well, I think in most countries, I think even like the European Union, and I think the only
crazy.
I think the only countries that support Maduro right now are like Iran, Syria, Russia, China, Turkey, maybe. Weirdly enough, I think Turkey like weirdly supports Maduro. I'm not sure why. But, I don't think Maduro is a good leader, and I don't think he is running a very democratic country. And I don't think he's, I think he's definitely got a lot of problems. But I think at least the first, he was appointed, and I think his election was for the most part democratic as any election could be at this time. But, do I support any sort of coup? Absolutely not, Like they gotta,
especially not by other major countries.
And the thing that's not being reported either is like Maduro offered to debate like Guaido, and the thing is like they're calling Maduro a dictator. I was like, if he was really a dictator, Guaido would be dead.
That's right. I did hear that. Yeah, I'm just doing a quick news search right now. It's like barely in the news. I found one article from like 3 weeks ago on some random news site basically saying that, the military ships, there's war games going on. Yeah.
There was a weird thing that happened a couple months ago where like, I don't know if you saw this in the news at all, that like there was like 12 like ex-Marine like militia guys that like got on like a little speedboat from Colombia. Yes. You saw this?
It was like a joke.
And they tried to land on the beaches of Caracas and like take over, like, and I was like, there are these guys, this guy's seen too many like James Bond movies or something. Like these guys are wild out. It's like, Venezuela's got a huge military too. You know what I mean? It's like these 12 guys think they're going to just waltz into like this massive country and take over the government. Like, it's no way.
I wonder what really what that was all about. Were they like somehow sent there, or this is just a total independent operation?
The thing is, I don't know how independent it could be because I don't really know how any like U.S. paramilitary personnel could be operating here without knowledge from the Colombian or the U.S. government. So
Yeah, it's just weird because I thought, oh, this must have been some kind of covert operation gone wrong, but these guys seemed vastly like unprepared and like got caught quite easily. And I remember watching some films of them; they didn't really look like very like they were kind of like out of shape dudes riding around in a dinghy.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, maybe they weren't like sent there by the government, but maybe the government's like, yeah, if you guys want to try it, go for it. Like, but yeah, it's interesting that, this narrative that I've heard for the last, 4 years in Colombia is now is making it to the lips of the president of the United States. And, I think somehow we've kind of entered like a new era of Red Scare where like,
oh, definitely,
where these words, socialism, communism, whatever, are becoming, scapegoats again, which kind of seem to die off. I don't know, since after the fall of the Soviet Union, because I don't really remember hearing this, at least in the US, as like a kid. I mean, I'm sure in Latin America it's been a different story because here they've had, a lot of different changes of power and, guerrilla groups and whatnot. So I'm sure it's different here, but at least in the US, I mean, when I was a kid, it was all about like Muslims and terrorists and whatever, and Al Qaeda and ISIS. But now it seems like this has, I mean, maybe it's like, it's kind of a response to Bernie bringing the word socialism into the narrative, and like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I think like between these two major political figures, even though I wouldn't say either of them are really like socialist per se. I mean, I think they're democratic socialists and have socialist values to them, but I don't think they're not like even Juan Guaido. Did you see what he said about AOC? He was like, oh, like in Venezuela, she's like a centrist or something. Like, oh really? Yeah, he was like laughing.
I mean, I don't know. The thing is, the problem I have with all these terminology at some point is like, I mean, first of all, they're vastly misunderstood terms, which is actually why I think it's great. We got to talk about it later, but I thought it was great that you put together this, summary of all these different political terms to like give out to people. Because I was just reading that a couple hours ago, and because I mean, these are words and they have definitions and they can be very abstracted once you like release them into the wild. You know what I mean? And I mean, the wild, including, a government trying to base their entire governmental system on socialism or capitalism or whatever. But all these terms are like so vastly misunderstood. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like for the most part, what are we really talking about? Like a Bernie type person? What are we really talking about when we talk about socialism? We're saying basically providing government providing basic needs to the citizens, like basic social services. That's all we're talking about. But they put these labels on them because of the like historical context connotations that they carry, And then on the other side, you see a lot of people that are also like kind of misconstruing what they mean in all kinds of weird ways. Even I think like, yeah, exactly. And I think it's even a big problem like in the US, like left, because I think a lot of people who, identify with these ideologies don't really know how to use the terms, and they end up like, getting caught up in like an argument, and then they don't even know like exactly what they're arguing about at the end of the day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's easier to just I'm not so sure how helpful these terms are most of the time. I mean?
I think they're helpful for like reducing propaganda and misinformation. I think
you think, well, but I think that, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. What do you mean? Because what I'm kind of thinking is that like, you take a word like socialism, kind of a broad term, or like a term that's just very like misinterpreted, misconstrued, and can be easily abstracted. And like they'll just put it on a big poster of like, in red and,
I think
socialism.
I think like, just the fact that, something like a public healthcare system in the US gets associated with, a country like Cuba or Venezuela is a problem. And that's,
so I
think that's where we need to kind of start to understand a little bit of these differences. It's like,
oh yeah, I mean, people. I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
People are like, oh, public healthcare, that's socialism. I was like, well, not really, because most capitalist countries in the world have public healthcare systems.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's like, and one thing I always had a problem with Bernie, and really like a lot of, I mean, I have a problem with many politicians and how they use these words, because it's like, dude, it's like, I know what you're saying, but like most people don't know what you're saying. You know what I mean? So it's like, we have to, okay, socialism. Okay, what do you really mean by that? Can we come up with, different ways of explaining this? You know what I mean? Because for the most part, it just goes either over people's heads because of a huge blind spot in the education system growing up. I mean, we're fed tons of propaganda, but at the same time, we don't understand what these simple words mean. You know, like, and we don't understand like the context. Because I mean, yes, socialism, public services. This is basically what Bernie Sanders is talking about, and like what the average democratic socialist is talking about in the United States right now. Yeah,
exactly. And so, which is really just, I don't know. It's a weird situation where I think we need to, because I think when people don't know these words and they don't at least have like a general understanding of what any of them mean, like people don't even understand what they mean. You know what I mean? Like not even not even a remotely idea. Like literally, I saw like a comment in like my town Facebook group about like the masks, and they're like telling people like what to wear is like communism, and I was like, that's like not even remotely true. And I was like, that's like authoritarianism. It's like being like authoritarian or dictatorship. It has nothing to do with like economic systems or like anything. And so it's like, I think, a lot of these ideas are just vast. Like they don't, like people don't even have like a clue. It's not even like people have a general idea. Like people don't even have a clue.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I mean, honestly, like growing up, like I don't know about you, but I feel like growing up,
I didn't learn about this in a proper way.
Through the entire K through 12 education system in Florida, I didn't learn about any of this stuff. We learned about in 12th grade in the very last semester, we had a class on U.S. government. The whole K through 12 education system. We never learned of any of this stuff. Only through my own curiosity and like growing up did I, learn about, get a proper education and what all these terminology means. But I mean, that we can create an entire system. Like how, like, I don't even know like where people have the audacity to throw these terms around when they have no idea what they mean. This is silliness.
Yeah. So, but I think, it seems to be a central, like the fact that people think like Joe Biden's a socialist is like wild. It's like wild. It's wild.
It's really wild. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what it really is like the people that are going to be scared by that word the most are the people that, the older generations. I'm just assuming, but I think the older you are, when that word meant, Soviet Union, when that word meant, communist China back in the 50s and 60s. Yeah. That's the people it's going to scare. And that's the people that they need like to vote for Trump, because it's still one of the biggest voting blocks.
Yeah. But that's the thing too. Like we don't even learn about like the truth of a lot of things in like the Soviet Union, because I mean, the thing is the Soviet Union under Stalin and the Soviet Union after Stalin were vastly different places. Like, obviously, it wasn't a great place, but the thing is that, I don't know who was the first guy right after Stalin. I think it was, Khrushchev was the one who took over after Stalin, and he like completely like denounced so many things that Stalin did. And he like removed a bunch of statues of Stalin and everything. And he was like, yeah, like Stalin, like you would never hear that like Khrushchev completely denounced Stalin. And, and so it's like things you don't learn.
Oh, about. Dude. Yeah. You're already like way too deep into like what people should know about the Soviet Union. You know what I mean? I mean, of course it's a good thing to know, but I mean, it's just like people they think people don't even know that like the USSR and the Soviet Union are the same place.
Yeah.
It's a big black hole. And it's a big black hole in the education system. It's crazy.
So
I mean, just to know about it, like I'm really fascinated with the Soviet Union because exactly that, because I did not learn anything about it growing up, and I just heard a little chirping in the background, kind of like, oh, what is that place?
We just learned about it as being a bad, scary place.
Yeah. And I mean, I can tell you, like, I mean, now I'm married into a lot of people who used to live in the Soviet Union. So I find out a lot about it, and not too many people would like to go back to the Soviet Union. That's for sure. And there's, I mean, actually, I don't really know anybody. The only people I hear that talk a bit like what do I want to say, like sentimental about it, nostalgically about it, are some of the older people, like really old people. But because what a lot of people don't understand also about the Soviet Union is that, like, when it fell apart, like, there was really nothing, we're going from such one extreme, like basically Soviet Union, to like trying to like fit into like European, like, open market, like capitalism. It's, just factories shut down. People kind of didn't know what to do, so especially a lot of the former Soviet Union ended up being disaffected, but that doesn't mean that the Soviet Union was like great. It just means it was a system and a structure that was set up, and then afterwards they had to rebuild everything. And some countries did better than others. There's countries like Estonia, which are like off the chain, doing fantastic, and then there's neighboring countries like that are if you
Armenia and Azerbaijan getting spicy right now too.
Yeah, I mean, people are just duking out. So yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating situation in the former Soviet Union. But I mean, but on the other hand, one thing that I notice that bugs me sometimes, and I see this especially a lot on like social media, is there's a lot of like iconography like related to the Soviet Union and all this kind of stuff. And for me, this stuff is like, very basic, like hammer and the sickle and all this kind of stuff. And I get it. I understand the long history of this symbology, but nowadays,
I don't like any kind of symbology.
Yeah, I don't either. But the thing is like, but I mean, I understand like the origins, because I've had a lot of like disagreements with people about this kind of stuff. And I'm like, this like trend of like, yeah, I'm gonna wear this hammer and sickle and I'm gonna like shout about like communism all the time. I'm just like, dude, this is not helping right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not helping the cause at all.
Well, that's the thing too, and it's like people don't even realize that the Soviet Union wasn't communist.
Oh, I mean, a lot of it was very. Well, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it was an unequal society with like a huge hierarchy and power structure. And
exactly.
Oppression. Mm-hmm. As like, there's nothing about it that's communist at all. So it's
in many ways, it was kind of very, capitalistic. It was just organized in a certain way.
Yeah, it was just capitalist, just in the fact that the state was the boss instead of a business.
Exactly. And there was, tons of crazy stuff going on. I mean, lots of deportations of people out to Siberia and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I feel like when there's so many people kind of like flashing about this, I'm like, you don't understand like what really happened. I mean, for some people, like for example, in Lithuania, where I know a lot of people, you can't even flash the hammer and sickle. It's like being in Germany and flashing the swastika, But it's kind of funny how you can like go around and like get t-shirts with this in like, Orlando, Florida or something like that with like Mickey Mouse on it.
It's crazy. Bizarre. Yeah. I don't know. And, but what I've been trying to like get across to people, I guess, in like months leading up to this is basically that, the US basically operates under a one party system. Like we talk about how China's like a one party, or Russia's a one party, or like Soviet Union was a one party state. And I'm like, the US is a one party state too, because, even in these one party states, like in the Soviet Union had elections, but they were all candidates from the Communist Party. They were candidates from the Communist Party who had different perspectives and ideologies. And, in the United States, we have two parties, but they're really just two facets of the same party, which is the capitalist imperialist party, because
exactly
both parties like the main core, both parties want to maintain the same economic system. Both parties want to maintain the same international policy. And so it's like, well, you know, you're just two factions of the same party because you're like, your end goals are both the same. You're just having different, you know, ideas of how to achieve them. I mean, you know, the Republican Party, will say, in the last couple of years has definitely shifted farther right. And I think, you know, I think the gap has been widened a little bit with like the influence of like Bernie and AOC, and also with the influence of Trump on the other hand. You know, I think these gaps, but like traditionally, you know, in the last, you know, in the whole time of the Cold War, the US operated under a one party state as well. Just people it's like an illusion that we have. Oh, yeah. It's an illusion that we have a choice, because really, you know, neither party wants to promote any serious like systematic change, you know? And so and the thing is, like, people don't understand how one party states work. And that's how a lot of one party states work. You know, it's like, yeah, there's only one party, but there's candidates within that party that have different opinions, and they vote on, you know, different candidates.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of tribalistic fight that is presented to us, you know, Republican or Democrat, red or blue, the socially conservative or the socially liberal. I mean, this fight is kind of keeping the masses distracted, is the way I look at it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, there are some really serious like social issues that we should be concerned with.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change the underlying, the foundation, which is a completely like unjustifiable, you know, capitalist system that is like oppressing the majority of people, you know, and that will prevail either way.
Yeah.
Under this party, this one party system.
And I think, you know, we're pretty much stuck between a rock and a hard place always, because like, you know, we just pretty much always have to vote for the Democrats, because, you know, it's like, all right, well, we need to have abortion to be legal. We need to, you know, at least have, you know, like, you know, somewhat decent environmental policies. We need to have, you know, politicians that don't want to like nuke, you know, the whole Middle East, you know. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, well, they're not really offering anything they're just like kind of cleaning up the surface wounds instead of trying to fix the cancer that's deep down in the body. You know? Yeah.
Well, that's the carrot. They keep, and it's like, they keep us chasing the carrot. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you know,
but the thing is, we have to chase that carrot, because, you know, otherwise we get things like Trump, who's just, you know, just totally taken us back to a very, very dangerous situation. And so it's like, you know, it's
yeah,
really,
I think this is like an interesting topic to focus on for a second, is like what's going on right now. Cause I have my theories on it, but like, you know, right now there is like a big part of the left, you know, like you said, the people that would typically vote Democrat that I feel are like breaking off, you know what I mean? And a big part of the progressive, you know, constituency at this point in time. I mean, I know after the primaries and this whole fiasco and the crazy stuff that happened, and I was pissed off and couldn't at that point in time imagine myself voting for Biden. I felt almost like so pissed that I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. But after processing it for a while, I said, okay, you know what? My vote is only so powerful, and what can I do in this instance? You know what I mean? Because if I don't, you know, vote against Trump, then we're just like you said, we're due for a lot more abuse, like on that level, on the Trumpian level. Not to mention just like, I think psychologically, you know, people need to just take a break from that whole Trump situation.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like en masse. But I mean, a lot of people aren't having it anymore. Like, I mean, I almost wasn't going to have it, but I said, no, okay, I gotta, because I'm not going to, I feel like at the end of the day, I'm not going to achieve anything by, I don't know. If coming from Florida, especially, I'm not going to achieve anything by voting third party in this situation.
Well, I guess I have 3 takeaways from this that have been my thing is like, if we're going to continue to operate in this 2-party system, which is probably going to keep happening at least for 1 or 2 more elections, unfortunately, primaries are just way more important.
Yeah.
I mean, the primaries are just way more important than the general election. And so there's that. And then you gotta, like, people really gotta start like paying a lot more attention to their local elections. I looked up every single candidate in my local election in the primaries.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I got to start doing this better. I got to start looking into these people. Got to start throwing money at these people when they're running their campaigns. And I was calling a lot of people that I knew and make sure in my district and saying like, these are the candidates. I looked them up just so like when you vote, and just like, let like this is what I found out about them. Like my friends who I know probably didn't look them up and stuff.
That's great, man.
And also like, I've been trying to get people in Massachusetts because I think Massachusetts is like a pretty safely blue state. Always. I think we got to bump the numbers of these third parties in states that are safe. Like I'm probably going to vote for the Green Party because I'm not worried about Trump winning Massachusetts. And so, yeah, I'm probably going to vote for the Green Party. And I think that I think in states that are safely blue where people have a little bit more of liberty to like, I think we need to start bumping these numbers to make third candidates seem more viable in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think 10 million people voted third party last election. And so we can get that number up to like 15 million or 20 million this election, and it doesn't result in like everybody was blaming Jill Stein for Hillary losing. I was like, look where people voted for Jill Stein. People voted for Jill Stein in like Massachusetts, Vermont, California, like states that were blue no matter what. And so I think we need to start bumping these numbers a little bit. Like obviously for you, and if I lived in Florida, I'd vote for Joe Biden. Of course, if I lived in Texas, I'd vote for Joe Biden. Of course. But I think,
I like the way you look at it. Cause I mean, I think we're both looking at it the same way. It's like tactical, strategic, I am concerned a bit that there is a lot. I mean, people got the right to do it, but I'm concerned that there's a lot of kind of, like silly voting like going on. People think people think that they can achieve so much. It's kind of sad to me because you can't really achieve that much with this one vote. There's a million other people to vote for like down ballot that we need to be like flooding the House and the local elections with. And like I'm in Florida, so I don't want to vote for Joe Biden, but of course I'm going to vote for him because it's like a job interview. It's like Trump miserably has failed his job. Like we don't want that anymore. Like, yeah, it's not even like a lesser of two evils issue. It's just like, fuck that dude.
Exactly.
Like,
because like I've heard too, just from like a lot of like older people that they just don't want to vote for him like for anyone, and they're on like more of the conservative side, because they're just like very disaffected with Trump or whatever. And I've been trying to get those people who would normally vote for Republicans and like just write someone in or vote third party.
Yeah,
like those, because they're not taking away votes from Biden, they're taking away votes from Trump. And it's like, well, if like one of my friend's dad said he wasn't going to vote for anyone. He's a pretty conservative guy. And I was telling my friend, I was like, just tell your dad to write someone in, just like as many votes as we can take away from these two parties in this election, just to like, just give more life to the future elections.
Oh, that would be amazing too. I mean, could you imagine that? Like, okay, best case scenario in this election would probably be, Trump loses, Biden wins, but there's like a significant like portion of third party votes.
Yeah.
Like even if it's for different kinds of parties, all that collected, I mean, it'd be great. Just millions and millions of third party votes would be amazing. So I do hope that that happens. That would be amazing.
Yeah. So
that's
kind of my like general philosophy in the last couple of days. It's like, you know what, if you live in a safe state one way or the other, and you really, really, really don't want to vote for either one, I think you should vote third party. Because
this makes sense. I mean, as long as we have this, as long as we still have this electoral college system, may as well use it to our advantage.
Exactly. And so, and then I guess just final thoughts here. Like, it seems like, the way the media is making it look, and, the way like Trump himself's making it looks like he's losing.
It does.
It looks like he's losing steam, and he seems pretty desperate. But at the same time, who's to know? Who's to know? Yeah,
dude. I mean, I don't know. I don't buy it. I mean, I'm not hopeful. I have a twinge. I have like a little twinge of hope, maybe, but we'll have to. I'll wait. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not feeling it. I'm not getting my hopes up.
I'll believe it on I don't know, February 20th, when finally, after all the Supreme Court rulings have been made and a winner is declared or something, I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that. I mean, but yeah, and I mean, and that's what I'm saying too. Like, we got to use our votes in the best way that we can. So, I mean, if you're listening out there, because I feel like as if I did it to myself, and I feel like there's a lot of like kind of voter shaming going on, and people are feeling like they should vote, for Biden or something, but they don't want to, or maybe they're afraid to vote for a third party. So, I mean, think about it strategically. It's not just a matter of the bullshit that, the Democratic Party's been trying to sell us, this whole blue no matter who crap. But it is like a strategic thing that we can do to kind of like prepare for the future. Because I mean, I think undoubtedly, I hope, I think, at least for progressive causes, okay, before we leave today, I was just think the Republican Party has shit the bed big time. Okay. And Democratic Party, you think you can do it? I don't think they can do that great of a job. But okay, you think you can do it? Okay, here you go. Take it. Take the reins. And I think that it's going to probably end up being disappointing anyways, and which will just be even more fuel for the fire in 2024. So that's my
getting late though, man.
That's my futuristic conspiracy. Oh, dude, too late.
Too late. It's getting late.
well, yeah. But there's like zero chance right now that we could get any other kind of candidate in there in 2020.
Yeah.
So we have to. I wouldn't wait till 2024 either. I would be like, but at least like, put the dam is like leaking. There's many holes in the dam. So at least plug up that one hole. And then like, let's, all this, like, all these people, a lot of people are probably going to fall asleep maybe if like Biden gets elected. But I think there's a lot more people that are awake now. So I'm just hoping, for me, that's not a victory. That's just like okay, let's shut some people up. All right. Like, let's keep moving,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not a victory. It's getting out of the battle alive.
It's getting out alive, dude. It's getting out alive. I was trying to come up with an analogy the other day. I was like, we don't want to vote for Trump, so we're going to run out of that burning building. And I don't know, are we running into another burning? Where else are we running into?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of just like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all right, it's gonna stop. It's gonna stop us bleeding for a little bit, so we can hopefully get to a hospital.
I do wonder at this point, like, who out there, because the thing is, like I said, for me to like kind of stomach voting for Biden, I really had to like process it over like months. It was very disturbing for me, this idea. Are there people out there, if you're listening, let us know, who legitimately like still have this like fantasy, like, oh, once like a Democrat gets in office, then everything's going to be better again.
Oh, dude, I think a lot of people do.
It's just, yeah, I know there are, but it's just like, geez, man, see, that's scary. So, and the truth is at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know, what would we say, like triangulated now. It's like this is, it's like the third party people, and that's a fragmented group, and then you got the Democrats and then you got the Republicans. So it's really just got to get that third estate bigger and bigger. So
yeah,
let's do what we can.
Exactly.
Well, cool, man. Hey, dude, thanks so much for coming on the show today and sharing. This is part of our Getting Ready to Vote from Abroad series. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again soon, as always.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about it always. So thanks for having me on.
Great. Thanks, Dan. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe and share this with all of your friends out there in the world of social media. And I don't know, maybe even in your car. We'll see you soon again. Peace.
Yeah.